Hey guys, and welcome back to another session in the Lumix Lounge. My name is Frederick Van Johnson. We're here in Nashville, Tennessee. I'm on stage with Mr. Giulio Sciorio. He's the force behind Small Camera Big Picture. He's a Lumix luminary, and he's also the host of an upcoming show on the This Week in Photo Network called TWIP Emerge. And fittingly, we're going to be talking about emerging photographic trends and technologies because Giulio is a self-admitted geek and wants to talk about that kind of stuff. Hey, Giulio.
Good to see you, man.
All right, let's dive right into this. You
Cool.
are, so first of all, let's just get a little history of who Giulio Sciorio is, right? So you've been shooting for the better part of a decade.
10 years now, man.
10 years.
Yeah.
10 years. How did you get started in photography?
I got started in photography. I inherited a camera. A friend of mine tragically was killed in a car accident. I inherited his camera, and I realized at the point that I never had a photo with him. And when that happened, that was like, I realized how powerful photography is.
Yeah, the capturing of memories, right?
Yeah. Because that photo, if I had it, will be a reminder for me as I get older and my memory fades.
Yeah, exactly. You know? Like, for example, like right now, who are you again? Okay, so we only have like 30 minutes to do this, so I want to, and we probably have 4 hours of stuff to cram into this, and I want to like put a sharp edge on it. Emerging trends in photography over the years has been, going back as far as the transition from film to digital, right? That was emerging. Digital was the emerging.
That was a big wave. That was like the start of a new transition.
Exactly. And then in tandem with that, almost on the video side, there was the transition from into digital from tape and all that stuff. So our industry just sort of morphing and moving forward. On the photography side, again, we had the transition from. And we still have, I don't know if it's a transition, but the controversy about RAW versus JPEG,
right?
All that stuff. Some shooters still swear by JPEG, others say you have to shoot RAW. And then now the current sort of argument is mirrorless versus DSLR cameras, and is one better than the other? Does mirrorless represent the future, etc.? And then on the periphery, kind of coming into the light, drones and aerial type photography, putting aerial shots in the hands of mere mortals like us, right? So from your perch, after this 10 years of being in this stuff, what trends get you the most excited as a photographer?
Well, I think right now one of the hottest things in photography is aerials, and I think but that's an easier pill for people to swallow. But I think what's another trend that's happening that is more difficult for people to swallow is that video and photography are becoming one.
Yeah.
In fact, like camera operators for news crews, they're called photographers.
Yeah.
But they're not taking photos; they're shooting video.
Yeah. It should be called, image makers, or like I was saying yesterday, you should just be artists.
Yeah, exactly. You're just going to be an artist that you happen to use a camera, and that's one of the reasons why I got that. So I told you how I got into photography, but how I got into photography as an art was because I was in art school, and I couldn't draw to save my life. Try to draw a straight line, ain't happening with this man. Yeah. But I could go out and make a cool photo to represent the image that I had in my mind. Yeah. And so then I fell in love with photography.
So, and I'm going to get into some of the trends and mirrorless and all that stuff in a second, but I want to get your ideas about this controversial topic. And we haven't rehearsed this, so so brace yourself. And we talked about this on This Week in Photo before, but the idea that some photographers say that photographers are not artists because we have these kind of tools that we can set to do it for us, and all we have to generally do is aim it and take an image and call it art. And this conversation was surrounded by that one piece of that photography or that photograph that sold for $1 million.
Well, that allegedly sold for.
Allegedly, I don't know what the deal is, but allegedly sold for $1 million.
Allegedly, yeah.
And the controversy around it was, it was an average. Some say an average shot. So, what do you fall in on? Is photography an art? Are photographers artists?
The image certainly can be art. I think photography is. The image, the end result could certainly be art if the person behind it is an artist, and if the person viewing it is one that sees that as a piece of art. Yeah. I mean, go into any museum and you will see art that you don't understand. Maybe you think it's a bunch of crap. Yeah. Or you'll see art that you're like, I really get that. Yeah. So it's really it's part interpretation and part creation. So, if you're doing photos. Like when we're in grade school, that's not really art, but that's photos to document you as a sixth grader.
And how do you draw the line though between art and not art? It's just like saying
that's the
you have a conversation with a fine artist,
right?
You know, like what is art and what is fine art? Yeah.
Well, you know, if you make it if you make it and you use like really puffy words and you're snobby, then it's art.
Yeah, your words have to have at least 3 syllables.
You got to be like, I had this interpretation while I was staring into my cup of Ariba coffee.
Yeah.
You know, no.
My mind was a black hole of the event horizon, and this came.
You know, I hit my head and I blacked out, and all of a sudden, you know.
Yeah.
No. I think that is really in the eye of the beholder.
Right. I
mean, it was with music or anything else. Like people. Yeah. Is that art? Is that person an artist?
Yeah.
I think a lot. Like, is Thomas Kincaid an artist?
Right.
And speaking of which, is Peter Lick an artist? You know,
right,
it's like
right.
You know.
I'm sure their bankers would say yes, they're definitely artists.
Yeah.
So let's fast forward into the emerging technologies and this kind of stuff. So we got these mirrorless cameras. We're here at a trade show, Imaging USA 2015 in Nashville. And one of the hot things that at this trade show and many of the other ones that you've been at has been this press forward in mirrorless cameras, right? So when we first started talking, these mirrorless cameras are like I think when you and I first met, the big thing was like, dude, you can look through here and see your exposure before you click it,
right?
You know, and
right.
Now you're on to 4K and extracting frames and all that stuff. What gets you excited about these things?
It's not that they shoot 4K or that you get a live view or any one of those things. It's how the Lumix cameras actually handle that information, how it handles how the interface works. When the tools are no longer a hurdle, then as an artist you can just focus on creating.
Yep.
And I think that's the important thing. And I think that's where as photography, I think we're starting into a golden era of photography with the start of 4K. Because in a few years we're going to have 6K, and a few years after that, not a few years. 6K is here now, and 8K is here now. But I'm talking within these cameras and product cycle from now, we'll probably start seeing 6K.
And some folks watching this will probably say, okay, that's great. 4K is awesome, 6K, 8K, 500K, all this stuff. But at home, all I have is a regular HD smart TV, which I just got, like one of these. I just got it, and it can't display 4K. Why do I even need 4K?
Let me tell you, I got a 720p TV at home. What's up with that, right?
Yeah,
straight out, and it's like thick, right?
Does it have a crank on the side?
Yeah, I got a hamster, and he's like just kind of
just throwing some kibble.
He's just cooking. No, but I mean, well, okay, so you may not have a 4K display, but you're not shooting 2 megapixel still photos. You're shooting maybe 16 or 36 megapixel still photos, and you still see the difference.
Yeah.
You will still see the difference with a 4K image on a 2K display.
Yeah.
Now, of course, there's the general idea, well, it's got to be 70 inches, and you got to stand X amount of feet away to really get the most benefit of. Well, yeah, that may be true.
Yeah.
But not to get.
Depending on your eyesight.
Maybe to get the most benefit, but not to get all the benefits.
Yeah.
There's so much you can do with 4K. I mean, I prefer to shoot 4K two ways. I either shoot it for 1080p, so I can do effects like pan and scan, 3 camera angles from 1 camera shot, or I look at it as shooting 4K to future-proof my work.
Right.
Okay, so
as
it's going
people
start
direction.
To get the TVs,
yep.
as YouTube, YouTube's already there, and as Netflix is there, so there's not a whole lot missing then. It's just the TVs.
Yeah.
Really.
So when the hardware catches up, you'll already be ahead of the game.
Right, my work will essentially be magically enhanced, and at that point it'll look much better, or at least sharper, I should say. Well, not better, but it'll look sharper and have more definition than everybody else.
So does this mean when the 6K, when the devices hit that allow you to capture 6K, you're going to move to that and forsake 4K?
Somewhat. So, like, I'm using the GM5. I really like a lot of the features in it. I like the size, I like the style, the appearance, and it shoots standard HD.
Yeah.
Okay, but GH4 and I still have a GX7 I use, but this shoots 4K, so it'll be the same thing with 6K. So maybe this camera down the road shoots 6K, and then one of these shoots 4K. It's fine. It's just a tool.
Yeah.
Sometimes I use a big hammer. Sometimes I use a small hammer.
Yeah.
So
when switching gears down a little bit, right? When you talk to photographers, there's like this wave of new stuff that's coming, whether it's software to manage this stuff, whether it's cloud solutions to share the photos, new social networks, new cameras out there to capture. In the old days, I had a camera, had some f-stop, shutter speed, couldn't even change my ISO, put my film without changing the film. Put the film in there. My decisions were limited. Therefore I could focus on just these variables and get really good at just those things and push my art forward. Now it feels like there's so much to learn, and there's so many waves coming in all the time that you're never able to get below the sort of the surface of this stuff. How do photographers out there, when they're just coming into this, how do they focus on one thing so they become better artists rather than, technology junkies or gear acquisition syndrome victims?
Well, that can be a challenge, okay? Mm-hmm. I certainly lust after equipment like everybody else does from time to time.
Yeah.
But
especially at a show like this.
Yeah, for real. But if you are and really to develop your vision takes years. But for me, I started shooting and I focused on food, and then but that was only for 2 years. In the last 8 years, I still shot portraits, but then I focused. My specialty became portraits for 8 years for commercial purposes.
Yeah,
and allowed me to really, really hone my skills in that area.
Yeah.
But then I use the tools of the cameras and tripods and whatever else that work for those specific types of portraits. Mm-hmm. So I guess it's a better time than any for photographers to be a professional. If you could look at it with an open mind, if you realize, okay, well now we have all this technology and it can be overwhelming, but that's good for someone who is dedicated to their craft.
Right.
As opposed to a hobbyist that gets in and just wants to wear a camera that looks cool,
right,
or just do some wireless flash, which by the way has been around since the 80s.
Right.
Or as a professional that's open-minded and says, as a professional artist and a business owner, how am I going to differentiate myself? Well, I'm going to be the best photographer I can be, and I'm going to do stuff that other emerging pros perhaps, and hobbyists cannot do, at least at that level of quality.
Yeah.
But not to mention, I may add that the emerging pros and those that are in the business, of course, being a professional means you're doing what you have to do because you have to do it, not because you don't feel like it.
Yeah.
Would separate yourself from other people, and your integrity is the bottom line.
Yeah. So you've been doing this stuff, like we said at the top. You've been a professional photographer for 10 years, shooting. So 10 years means you passed that small business hump of the statistical failure point of 3 to 5 years, right?
Screaming.
Yeah. So you passed that. Yeah. So there's over the past couple of months, years actually, we've seen a decline in the photography world of the career field of professional photographer. Mm-hmm. I mean, we've seen the Chicago Sun-Times lay off their professional full-time staff.
Yep.
Sports Illustrated recently mentioned that they're going all contract, no more professional shooters on staff there, and other places around the world are doing the same thing. Mm-hmm. CNN started, remember CNN when they introduced iReport saying, hey, give us your free footage and we'll put it on the air and put ads on it, and not give you anything. So all this stuff is going on, and the point of the question is, do you think that the career field of photographer is kind of becoming diluted a little bit, kind of like in LA, everyone's an actor?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So what's happening is that to be a professional photographer means you have to be a photographer and other things. Mm-hmm. The more you will get more work as a professional if your work is unique, and if you are smart with your business. Mm-hmm. But you have to be a photographer and other things. I mean, why put all your eggs in one basket? And well, I'm only going to shoot still prints. Well, great. And then when print sales go down the tubes, guess what? You're out of business.
Yeah.
Why? You got to do audio, do video. But as far as the career of a photographer that we were accustomed to with people like Joe McNally, and other, he's one of my heroes when I was a kid.
Same here.
I looked at him at all the Nikon catalogs and seriously wanted to be Joe. And
when I was a kid, he was my hero, and he's still my hero in my second childhood.
Exactly, right? So I really wanted to be those photographers, but that's their career in that generation, in that era of photography. But that generation, that era of photography is in the final stages of its life.
Yeah.
The new professional photographer is doing a variety of things. They're doing it well.
You know what I call them, right?
The multimediagrapher?
Yeah. Got it, yeah.
Yeah, and you're creating content. Mm-hmm. So, and I think in the fields of just basic newspaper photographers, basic print photographers, just basic ho-hum, average working pro, and I say barely average working pro. I think those guys, their days are numbered.
Yeah.
I mean, here's the thing, and it's I don't know why people don't get it. If you are selling just prints and all of a sudden, and you're selling prints to say seniors, and they're not buying prints. Well, figure it out, man. They got a phone in their pocket.
Yeah.
They're on Facebook. They're on Instagram. Start making content specifically for those devices where your customers are going to be.
Right.
That's like saying, well, we're going to go sell hot coffee in the middle of the desert.
Yeah.
Why? And then you're going to complain that no one's coming to you.
Right. Yeah.
You know?
Stop making wagon wheels, right?
Yeah,
because no one's driving wagons anymore.
For real.
Yeah.
Stop making excuses and just like get with it.
Yeah.
You know, I don't mean to sound harsh, but you know.
So you think the career field of the niche of just being a photographer is over? Right?
Yeah, totally, because you have to do a whole lot more.
Yeah.
And even as just being a photographer, I don't think there was ever a career of just strictly shooting and getting paid. You always had to be a business owner as well, an entrepreneur,
right.
which groups other things. But I spend a lot of my time marketing social media. I do audio, I do video, I blend it together.
Yeah.
I've never sold a print in my entire career.
Wow, in 10 years.
10 years, never sold a print.
Wow. Okay.
Never sold a print, and I've not messed with optical media in like 4 years.
Wow.
You know, it's all been through the clouds.
Sign of the times. You're the canary in the coal mine, Giulio Sciorio.
Thanks.
Let's hope you survive so the rest of us can come in.
Get in and be like, all right, and then get back out.
Is Giulio okay? All right, let's go. All right, man. So we're about out of time for this interview.
Cool.
So where can people go to check out some of the stuff that you're working on?
Small Camera Big Picture is the place to go. So you can learn a lot of stuff on there for free, and then you can go to my portfolio and see what I'm doing. Just Google me is the best way, and then keep an eye out, as you know, for Emerge on TWIP.
Yeah.
Because we got a ton of rad content. I mean, I think people need to know, and I love talking about it because it's about technology that's affecting the world of photography, not strictly cameras and flashes and whatever.
Yeah.
Not that I talk about flashes, but we're talking about drones. I met a guy that has robots that play music and read sheet music.
Wow.
So how is all this affecting photography? That's what Emerge is about, and that is on This Week in Photo /Emerge.
That's awesome. On that show, you should have a Mythbusters segment. You know, photography Mythbusters.
That's a great idea.
Is the small sensor really too small?
Really,
stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah. Cool, man. All right,
Awesome.
man. Thank you.
Thanks so much, dude.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right, guys, that's it for this session of the Lumix Lounge. You can find this episode and many more like it over at lumixlounge.com. My name is Frederick Van Johnson. We'll see you in the next episode.